All right. This is the Tell Me About It podcast. I'm Stella Graham. This is where I get to talk to interesting people who know some stuff because I need it, because I am a little bit thick, people. Now, my guest today is the fabulous Aideen McQueen. Hello, mate.
Hello.
How you
Hi.
doing?
Hello. Thank you for inviting me along.
It's always a pleasure to hang out with you. Now, Aideen is a stand up comedian. We've gigged together many times, but I need knowledge, mate. And I believe that you know a thing or two about recovering from addiction. Now, I think we've really picked a topic right before hilarity today.
Yeah, I know. And it's like, what are your talents? My talents are really drinking an awful lot for 10 years and then not drinking anymore. That's my biggest talent. And it's funny because you like I used to be like, my mother used to be so hard on me all the time, and she's very hard on my other sisters as well. And I've got a sister, a doctor. She still nitpicks loads, but she is just so happy with me all the time. As long as I'm not drinking, I can do anything I want.
Right.
So in a way, it's like a blessing. She's just like, well done, you came to Christmas dinner and you didn't get drunk and you didn't bring any weird men. Fabulous, you are just doing so well. So if you want to be rated highly in society, giving up an addiction, it's the only disease, alcoholism, where people are like, applaud you for getting better. Like, they're
Mm,
like, wow, you want to get better. Like,
yeah.
it's kind of unfair in a way, but it is something I know a lot about because I did a lot of drinking, an awful lot. I was arrested a few times. I'd end up in hospital all the time. I
For
just end up,
real.
yeah, yeah. So I had I suppose it started to creep in. When I was a kid, I was like always one of those kids that was a thrill seeker. Like, I was always jumping off roofs, and I'd like love spinning around and spinning around for ages and get that buzz. Like,
Okay.
I'd hang my head off the end of the bed and the blood would flow in my head, and I loved that kind of, any kind of sensation seeking. And the other
Okay.
thing I loved was escaping into fantasy and daydreaming, and I would never be present in the room. Like, like everybody else would be listening to the teacher, I'd be looking out the window.
Yeah. I mean, I
And
think
I
a lot of kids may have had a bit of that, or certainly I
yeah,
did.
of course, definitely. But I took it to another degree where everybody was just, I thought my name was, are you listening, for about
Right.
the first 10 years of my life. And, but what I didn't know was I was just like, and a lot of comedians are like this, kind of escaping into fantasy. And
Mm.
then my next escape was sugar. Like, I would love sugar. I would
Oh,
steal sugar
yeah.
from the cupboard and I would mix it with water and drink it. And
Just
I'd get
straight
so high off
sugar.
that. Straight sugar, man. Yeah.
Wow.
So well, it's easy to look back and say, oh yeah, I was always in me. But my first drink when I was 15, and it was just amazing. I just remember drinking it and feeling all my insecurities go, and just at one with, like, I'm going to say, God. It was like getting kissed by God. And
Now,
I
what
thought,
was the
this
drink?
is
What was
it.
it you had?
Okay, yeah, that was a good question. I think me and my friend decided we'd go to a little party in the quarry, as you do when you're underage, because nobody IDs you in the
Now,
quarry.
where
And
was
we said,
this?
in the quarry in Ireland. So
Hmm.
like, just an old quarry.
Just a
And
quarry.
just a quarry,
Just a
just a quarry.
quarry.
This is
Okay.
country kids. We didn't have like discos to go to yet. And so I just went into the drinks cabinet
Hmm.
and of my parents, and I thought, if I just take a little bit of every drink, this will be
Okay.
fine. They won't notice.
Right.
So I took like a little bit of vodka, a little bit of whiskey, a
Hmm.
little bit of limoncello, what I know now to be limoncello, a little
Okay.
bit of brandy,
Hmm. Hmm.
and a little bit of rum,
A
and
little
filled
bit
it
of
up in a 7
Monica.
Up bottle. Yeah. Yeah. A little bit of Erica. Yeah, that song is just exactly like that, except
Hmm.
much more horrific consequences.
Right.
But the so I had that. I didn't realize that you didn't mix drinks. I didn't know that wine before beer before wine stuff. And I
Yeah.
just took a big slug. It didn't do anything to me. I took another slug. It didn't do anything to me. So I said, I better finish this off. And then the magic happened,
Oh,
and I
wow.
was just floating. Then I got sick on somebody's shoe.
Hmm.
Then I blacked out. I ended up
Hmm.
peeing in somebody's cupboard. But I still thought, this is the
Impressive.
best thing that's ever happened to me. Yeah, and that was the first go. And I probably blacked out my first time. And I think kids these days are a bit more responsible about drinking
Mm, mm.
because they're all on drugs. But like, there is a kind of a very hedonistic thing in kind of, I'm being an old millennial.
Yeah.
I'm just at the cusp, but I relate more to that Gen Z kind of Kurt Cobain destructive kind of thing
Hmm.
that happened. We just drank. It was just drink, 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 drink. Smoke weed if you could get it, hash, but
Hmm.
just drink as much as you could. And there was no like like microdosing. There was no like drinking for pleasure. It was all hardcore. And I
So, how
continued like that.
frequently? Because some of what you're talking about sounds a bit familiar to me too. I think the first time I got
Yeah, of
drunk, I
course.
was 14. It was Diamond White. And yeah, I think I also managed to throw up on someone's shoes.
Yeah, everybody's shoes got puke in them in the 90s. That was the way it was. If you
That's
didn't
just
puke in your
how
shoes,
we
you weren't one of the cool
rolled.
kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But at what point do you go, well, this is really a problem now?
Yeah, you don't at the time, you don't, you think it's the solution. And it wasn't until I got into my say 25 years of age, and I trained to be a teacher, and I was in my first year of training, and all my friends were kind of settling down and getting jobs and copping on, and I still wanted to go out every night, but I was
Yeah.
doing crazier and crazier stuff. I remember I was at a house party with my mates, and I said, "Where's the toilet?" And he pointed upstairs, and I just went into a random room and sat down on the toilet and thought, "Wow, this toilet is made of wicker. That's a bit weird, isn't it?" And pissed in
Oh.
it. And then the next day he came to me like, "You pissed in my friend's chair." You know, so stuff like that would happen. I'd be so embarrassed. I'd go off it for a week,
Okay.
and I'd buy them like a hamper from Marks and Spencer's, leave it at the door, so embarrassed, run away.
You
I
know,
got
for a moment, I
arrested.
thought you were going to say it was one of them old wicker laundry baskets.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, sure, it's going in the wash anyway. I mean,
Very true. Yeah. White disposable natural toilet. Yeah. So it was starting to be a bit more like where people were like, oh, you know, oh, Aideen, somebody's going to have to mind Aideen. You know, when you hear that, you're like,
mhm.
there's something wrong. And I remember I did a sponsored, I said I'd do a dry month. It was like dry January, something like maybe 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And everyone was just like, "Oh my God, well done. We're so proud of you." I'm like,
Oh,
this is 3
wow.
days in, guys. It's not that big of a deal. But when people are heaping praise on you for being off drink for a week, you have to think,
Right.
maybe I'm not right. Then I got
Mhm.
arrested, yeah, at 25. And in order to stay in teacher training, I had to not get a criminal record. So I agreed to do
Yeah.
rehab. And I did a day rehab. I didn't tell my parents. I just pretended I was working, doing teaching experience. And that was like, oh, it wasn't great. We just all made posters about how bad alcohol was. And I couldn't really relate because I wasn't really hardcore then. You know, these were people who were drinking in the morning.
Mhm.
But um, then when I was teaching, I would just, my teacher training, I suppose, I would be sober all day. And then as soon as I got out of class, I'd be like, when can I go for a drink? And I would just get a small bottle of whiskey every night, correct my papers, and then get drunk as quickly as possible. And then if I woke up again, I'd get drunk again. And I was doing this every night. I was like, this is out of control.
And did you find like
And
some of the
that's,
marking of the papers, like, the first couple would be all right, and then
yeah,
just
yeah. I
later?
remember one of the parents said, "Your comments are very I compared a child in year 6 to James Joyce once, and I think the mother was like, that's a bit weird." I mean, I didn't go as far. I think I did once got some wine on somebody's pages, and I had to pretend I lost a copy or something like that, just give them an A. It wasn't, it was it was just
See,
messy,
if it's
messy, messy.
white wine, you could possibly get away with it, but I think red wine is a bit,
Yeah, it's
Ribena.
really telling. It would nearly be better to have blood, really, I think, to say some terrible accident happened. But so that was when I first started to try to get sober, and I'd get a few months here, a few months there, things would kind of get better, but then I'd start maybe smoking weed, or I'd start taking pills, or addiction for me is like whack-a-mole, this game where you have the
Yeah.
mole pops up, kind of a 90s game, and you whack it down and another mole
Mhm.
pops up, like, I
Yeah.
stopped drinking, so then I start eating sweets all the time. I'm eating too many sweets, so I start cigarette smoking, then I'm getting a sore throat, so I say if I just smoke weed instead, and then I'm feeling tired from the weed, so it's cocaine, and then I'm like,
Okay.
yeah, I haven't drank in 6 months, but I'm ready to start heroin at any second. So it was a long path for me. I would get few, even up to years of sobriety, but I would get back into the grips of drinking, and it might even be just for a short while, but the sprees were getting worse. I was arrested again. Like, I ended up in hospital more times than I can count. I mean,
Oh,
I remember one time I was in hospital, and came to when I was in hospital, and all the nurses knew my name. And I was like, how do you know my name? And they're like,
right.
yeah, but you were brought in here the night before as well, drunk and disorderly.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my God. So that was bad. That it was bad. And so I needed to do something. So I had to kind of change my life. I
Mhm.
had to go and do like meetings. I had to read a lot of Russell Brand books and listen to his podcasts. And I know people take the mick out of him,
Mhm.
but if you want to know about recovery, he's a very good place to start. He has a book
Okay.
about a recovery, which is really, really good. I think he just arrogantly called it recovery. And he
Okay.
doesn't just talk about recovery from addiction like he had, because in a way, having an addiction to crack or booze is in a way, it's a good thing. It's a blessing, because if you have addiction to booze, somebody's going to say something. People are going to stop you. People are going to help you. There's a lot of help out there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just addicted to looking at your ex-boyfriend's Facebook page, where's your rock bottom, you know? After your 200th like it's difficult. So in Russell Brand's book is very helpful, because it talks about everything being addiction, and addiction being escape into from some reality into fantasy. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
some people channel addiction in a good way. Like a lot of people who go into recovery suddenly start running marathons, or they become workaholics, they get
Yeah.
promoted. Unfortunately, I've never had that. I've never been addicted to exercise or work. I'd love to be.
Mm.
Um, but
You're
so
addicted
it
to more
is,
the fun stuff.
I know. Yeah,
Sure.
exactly.
It's more appealing,
Um,
right?
it can be. And I suppose other good thing about alcoholism is the only disease where you can suffer in a bar. You know, there's no like psoriasis parties, or there's no like, you know, cancer bar, but there's like, you know, alcoholics all congregate in bars. So in a way,
And it's a fun
you
place.
have,
They're playing
yeah,
music, people are hanging out.
yeah. You
Yeah.
know, they kind of are, but when you go to, I used to love, at the end, I used to go to these like early houses, because I'd be gagging for a drink. And you know, they don't in Ireland, as in England, licensing laws are quite strict, especially on a Sunday. They don't start selling drink till 12
Mm-hmm.
in Ireland, and you'd have the shakes, and there'd
Mm.
be certain, if you could get into a taxi, you go to the airport. This is awful advice now, but go if you're really hanging, if you think you're going to die, go to the airport. Often train stations have a bar open as well, or if you go to the quays or the port
Mm-hmm.
in a town that's near the sea, some of these bars will have a weird licensing law, and you go into a bar with loads of old fishermen, and it's just you in
Mm.
your miniskirt, walk of shame, downing a double whiskey, like, but they'll, you know, if you're quiet and don't mind them, but that's not a happy place. That's sad hour, like in the morning.
So what
So
do you think was sort of like the key thing for you? Was it just like a sort of a culmination of lots of things, of the hospital, the arrests, Russell's
yeah,
book?
yeah, going to, I went to a treatment center, and I did a lot of therapy. You have to change your life. You have to drop certain friends that you just would drink with anyway. You have to you have to completely brainwash yourself with positive. The way I brainwashed myself with drink, I had to brainwash myself with other things. So you think about to yourself, how much time did I spend drinking? I drink every day for hours, really. Then you have to spend the same amount of time that you did drinking doing positive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the accumulation of small things like exercise, a bit of meditation, talking to people, you know. And I'm still far from there. You know, I still feel like an alien in my own body a lot of the time, and the anxiety will still come up. That was the great thing about drink. Anxiety gone
Mm.
until the end, where you're drinking and the anxiety is still there and it doesn't work.
Right.
And then you can replace it. Like you can easily get in. What I used to do is I'd get sober for a bit, then I'd find a boyfriend, be really delighted, and then we're like, oh yeah, I'm recovered, let's have a drink. And then within a
Uh-huh.
while he'd be like, wow, she was so much fun at the start, and now she's like turning up to my work drunk. What's going on, you know?
That's, I was going to
So
say, because certainly working in comedy, a lot of the time you're right next to a bar and people are like, hey, do you want a drink? And that
yeah,
temptation.
that is, and you get paid. You're almost, it's one of the few jobs where you're expected almost to drink. You
Mm.
know, comedians go up to the stage with a drink. I mean, imagine if I went in to teach a kid at primary school and like just opened a bottle of wine and everyone clapped for me and I was like, yeah, okay, let's do some times tables now. So it
I
is in
mean,
a
I'm
way an
beginning to
odd
think
one.
some of those who are teaching on Zoom right now, you don't know what's in that mug, in that flask,
Yeah, true. Watch
whatever
out,
gets you
kids.
through.
Very careful. But the idea is, I suppose, to fill your life with something else. You need to have some aim in your life which is bigger than the want to drink. I
Mm-hmm.
suppose comedy is good like that, because I want to do comedy and want to perform. And I used to think drink like made me so much funnier and looser
Mm-hmm.
and all cool. And then I remember listening back to a gig I recorded when I was a few sheets to the wind, and it's like, this is terrible.
Were you
Like the
slurring?
audience are generally worried about me, you know?
Mm,
And
mm.
I would be way too revealing. I would tell these really graphic sexual stories on stage, and people would be like, ah, like nervous laughter is
Uh-huh.
not good,
Mm.
you know. And it wasn't even like of what I was saying. It's like, is she going to fall, you know? And I did a
Wow.
competition really drunk. I was in the final of the Irish Comedian of the Year, and it was my only chortle review. And she was like, her fake drunk act isn't very good, or something isn't quite convincing. And I was like, oh my God, I was in blackout for that. I wish I'd seen my own act, you know. So it was hurting my career, it was hurting my relationships, it was hurting my family. And you know, you think you have a rock bottom, and then suddenly you get a few good months, and then you're back on it. So I have to really be careful, even around my period. You have to listen to your cycle, ladies, about everything. You should get that app Clue if you don't have it, guys. Shout out for Clue. I'd be more sensitive to wanting to drink, you know. So
Wow.
it's, I don't know if it's in me or not. It's in my family, so you know, I kind of have decided it's probably genetic, and not to worry too much about the roots of it, and just worry about keeping on top of it.
So what is your
Um,
relationship now with alcohol?
we're divorced.
Okay, good.
That's it. I can't take a drop, because once it's in my system,
Yeah.
even mouthwash, I'd be like, because I used to drink
Steady.
mouthwash. Yeah. And because when you drink mouthwash, there's alcohol in it, but it doesn't smell. So people
Mm-hmm.
are like, she seems drunk, but her breath is so perfect, you know?
The teeth are
Uh,
sparkling.
yeah. So I drank my mother's Chanel number 5 once. She was
Never.
so upset. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I really went to the pits of it. I was never homeless, thank God. Um, but I was like without dresses for a while, but and just hopping around from place to place and from man to man and stuff. And it's just a seedy life. And so I'm, as they say, Americans say, I'm in a good place now.
You
I'm
are.
feeling so much more centered. I'm in a house. I'm not in a bar. And I'd love to. I mean, if I could still drink 2 drinks and just
Mm-hmm.
walk away from it, I would do that. Even if I could drink a bottle of wine a night
Mm-hmm.
and leave it, I probably would choose that, because it's a very romantic idea to me, and I've always like fantasized about it. But it doesn't. It's for me. I'm broken. Whether I broke was always like that, or whether it happened because of overexposure to drink, I don't know. But it's gone for me now. Yeah, we're
Good.
divorced, and I've got a restraining order against drink. But he was my best boyfriend for years and years and years. He loved me. He made me feel good about myself. I made me feel beautiful. He made me feel confident. But it all turned.
Fair enough. Well, you're looking good for it, mate. Now, everybody loves a shout out. Would you like to shine a spotlight on a mate?
Yeah, so I have a very good mate called Charley Harrison, and
Mm-hmm.
she runs a tour company called Tailored Tours. So at Tailored Tours, and she's very successful. She's doing loads of live tours of London. It's not your usual kind of boring tour where a tour guide just spurts stuff out. She knows London inside out, and she lets you design it. So you can bring
Mm-hmm.
a small group, you can bring a big group. She'll go and have a pint with you in a cool bar. She'll bring you up to unusual places. You could do graffiti tour, you could do food tours, any tour imaginable, because she's got loads of guides contracted, and you can do them. Now she's not doing tours a lot in real life at the moment, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but she did this really cool thing where she does virtual tours. So she'll have like one of those selfie
Selfie
sticks,
stick?
and she'll show you around Trafalgar Square,
Right.
and people will log in and watch. And it's
Wicked.
been really successful. So she had like, she does it for groups or she does it for random people, but at Tailored Tours, it's really, really good. And I really admire her. Like, she brought the business from scratch to having a staff with her and like 20 contractors. So that is my shout out to Charley.
Charley Harrison. Good stuff. Right. Are you working on anything now? Anything we should be stalking you on?
I've got a few things up on YouTube, my YouTube channel, Aideen McQueen, and I am working on something at the moment. I wrote a poem about all the different rules about lockdown, how like there's been 64 law changes since the
Wow.
start of lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy. I think the government are really, there's no decisiveness in the government. They're not really giving the people guidance. They've improved lately, but it's been really a roller coaster for people. And I've made this poem, and I was really happy with it. But then my sister was like, I think you might be a bit too flippant. So I have to go back and look at it and be like, not offensive. Because you know, when you're getting into, sometimes if your comedian brain, you forget, oh no, there's actual real people here. So I have to make it clear that I'm on the people's side. I'm just not on the government side.
Okay.
So that'll be up in the next few days
All
once
right. We'll
I've
be
made, yeah. Sorry, I'm giving away. That was really boring, guys.
not at all. No, no,
Apologies.
no. We will be
And
posting links to all of that good stuff
yeah,
just here on
what
YouTube. Okay.
else? We could say comedians do countdown that I've
Of
often going on, and
course.
Stella does as well with a friend. That's Nicole Aris. It's on her Instagram, Nicole Aris, because she's Cockney, of course, no H.
Mm-hmm.
And anything else that I'm doing. That's about it. I'm available to do quizzes online if anyone's listening. I can do quiz about your family. Just give me photos and I will make up a story. It'll be funny, totally inaccurate, but totally funny.
Awesome. All of the links to all of your good stuff and, of course, Charley Harrison will be posted below here on YouTube. Great to hang out with you, Aideen. Thanks so much for coming
Lovely.
on.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
No worries. Cheers.